Immediately, this caused drama. Why? Because one of my detractors slash restreamers slash hate watchers slash internet stalkers, their name is like... That's the first stuff I wanted to talk about today. Next on the agenda, there has been an update on the new game Directive 8020. This is the next game coming out from Supermassive Games, the makers of games such as the Dark Pictures Anthology, The Quarry, and Until Dawn. It's coming out now in May. I think it's May 12th is officially the new release date. This game actually was supposed to go on back in, or come out back in October, but it got delayed, and it's been a pretty big delay. I'm excited for it. A new trailer has released for it. We will react to that tomorrow on the Level 1 podcast. Tomorrow I'm going to do a formal, longer show rather than just this quicker show today, and we will actually react to that trailer and see what it looks like. All right? It's looking good. I'm excited for that. I like reacting to trailers, and this game is right up my alley with the horror-themed and, you know, story elements where you can choose and try to keep everybody alive based on your choices. So that should be a good one. I hope you'll be here tomorrow on the podcast, and I'll react to that trailer. We have an update regarding a game that people have asked me about for quite a long time. It's called 2XKO. This is the fighting game by Riot Games. That's right. It is the League of Legends 2 versus 2 fighting game. For those who don't know, this game was announced 10 years ago in 2016. This game has been under development for 10 years. Executive producer Tom Cannon, who is one half of the infamous Cannon Brothers, the people who started EVO, the National Fighting Game Tournament Championships here in the United States, who used to run Shoryuken.com, the major website where everyone for fighting games would post and talk about their tournament results. Okay, so this guy is incredibly prominent in the fighting game community, and Riot handed the reins over to this guy to develop a Riot Games fighting game. Well, over the last 10 years, this game has changed form tons of times. So you could say it's been in development hell, per se. Originally, it was supposed to be a 1v1 Street Fighter-esque fighting game, just starring the heroes of League of Legends. Then, the game changed focus to be a 2v2 team-based game. Then it changed focus to, instead of being like a Street Fighter game, now it's an 8-button fighting game with simplified inputs where you don't even do motions to do special moves. You just pull the direction and press a button and a move comes out. All right? Then it evolved again and again. And what ended up happening was, this game went through so many iterations, so many changes, and so many development problems, okay, that by the time that it was finally going to release, there already were tons of other games coming out that were already similar, so people didn't really care that much about 2XKO anymore. For example, the Invincible versus fighting game is coming out in like a month or 2 months. Is it April? What about Marvel Tokon, right, which really ate up all of the momentum when the beta came out last year, and everyone was just talking about Marvel is back, Marvel is back. So the problem is that this game took so long to develop that everything else kind of passed it by, and it's now just seeming more samey. While if it had come out like 5 years ago, maybe people would have been blown away. Now it's kind of like, well, there's a million other games as well, so who cares? Okay? So what happened was recently, last few years, Riot Games actually hired a bunch of people in the fighting game community to actually work on this game and design the heroes and their play styles. They had play testers like my former friend Nerd Josh, all right, who I used to play with fighting games in Connecticut all the time. I mean, he was a kid when I was growing up and, you know, was in arcades with me playing games like Capcom vs. SNK 2, right? He was one of the head testers on the game, employed by Riot Games to make this game good. And so they were tweaking this game time over time to try to make it better and to try to basically make it a game that would be in line with what the fighting game community wanted. But here's the problem with 2XKO. Number one, the name. 2XKO. Does that say, hey, League of Legends fighting game? No. It says 2 times knockout because there's 2 characters and you have to knock out 2 to win. That could apply to any fucking genre of game whatsoever. Whoever made up that name is a complete fucking mouth-drooling idiot. It's the worst name ever for a fighting game. It really is just terrible and is horrible marketing. And it's funny because if you go and ask anyone who's into League of Legends or even someone who's a fan of the Arcane show from, is it Netflix it was on? Just say, hey, what do you think about 2XKO? Do you know how they're going to respond to you? What the hell is 2XKO? What are you talking about? Because no one knows what this game is, all right? There was almost no marketing, no hype, and no one understands what it is. Riot Games very erroneously thought that if they just threw a whole bunch of money, okay, at a game, that it would sell, regardless of the fact that people who play League of Legends would never touch a fighting game, okay? What they should have done was did some focused research on, hey, if we made a game in the fighting game space, how could we make it work so we can actually get some of that customer base over? But instead, they were just assuming they would have an installed player base from the League of Legends community, and the League of Legends community has zero interest in 2XKO. Zero. So, a decade of money and time invested in this game, okay? The game actually came out soft launch in October on PC only. Now, I could already tell you that how bad of an idea that is to do a soft launch on PC only, because basically people were like, is the game out or not? We don't understand. The game is free to play, for the record. Okay, so they were assuming people were going to spend money on cosmetics and on downloadable content and on seasonal passes. They didn't charge people up front for this game. So everyone downloaded the game on PC from the FGC. They all played it for free, and they all criticized it and said, it's kind of weak in this regard and that regard. It's not a very competitive game. We wanted this tweak. And, being that Tom Cannon is the executive producer and he understands, how the fighting game community works, he worked with them. He had the people who he had employed who were fighting game community people work with the FGC to try to get the game to be better. Okay. The problem was, because it was a soft launch, it never had a formal launch, it never had a full roster of characters, it always felt like the game was kind of in endless beta or endless early access. It never felt like the game actually was out. And therefore, there never was a full-fledged push. There never was full-fledged advertisement for it. No one really even knew that it was out. Okay? 3 weeks ago, Riot Games released 2XKO on consoles. It was January 10th or 11th or something like that, right? And when it did, once again, this was kind of like the second soft launch, where even though, yes, now officially it's on consoles, there still was no big push. There was no advertisement. There was no, go play 2XKO. It was kind of like, it's out, go check it out. But we're still going to tweak it per your request. We're still going to improve it. So it never felt like the game was out, especially because it's free to play. Like, when is the official launch of a game that's free to play? I mean, it had been in forms of beta and early access for a while. So it basically got zero hoopla. Zero. Okay. And now it was announced last night, 2XKO is getting a monstrous budget cut. They have just laid off 80 out of the 160 employees that were working on this game. Half of the dev team has been laid off, pretty much including every single person from the fighting game community who they had employed to make the game, have all been made unemployed. Okay? The official post from the 2XKO, dev team is basically the game isn't underperforming massively. It's not making them money at all. And therefore, they're not going to cancel the game. They're not going to close the game or anything like that, but they just can't afford to employ all these people anymore. So they have to lay off everybody. So they said, don't worry, the game's going to continue to exist, and we are going to do dev updates and things for it per your requests and your feedback, but we just can't employ these people from the FGC anymore. So they laid them all off. The FGC replied pretty much exactly how you thought they would respond to this with, are you kidding me? The game has only been out for 3 weeks. We're barely getting a handle on it yet to see if we even like it or if it's going to have a long-running, season or whatever. This is ridiculous. Like, why on earth would you do that? This doesn't give us confidence to invest time in this game. Like, why should we keep playing your game if at any moment now you could just shut it down, right? You got to understand in the FGC, okay? They're constantly juggling different games and schedules. They have to travel to play these games. They're playing online in sets and tournaments. Time is very valuable. I can tell you right now, as someone who used to play competitive fighting games at a high level and travel to play them, the number one issue is time, 100%. Like, you need to be traveling constantly, but playing and also getting a wide variety of experience and practice against a wide variety of players. You can only do it with so many games with so much time. If you're asking the FGC to invest their time into XKO, what confidence do they have that it's going to be worth their while if you just laid off half the dev team? You might, at another, forget it, we're just quitting the game, we're canceling the game now. But now we invested all this time in it. So basically the FGC is like, yeah, we're pretty much done with this. Like, there's no reason to keep playing it, because how can we have confidence that anyone will ever, play this game long term? It's just not worth our time anymore. So essentially the game is dead, even though it's not. They already killed themselves. Like, they already committed suicide. And everyone now is yelling at Riot Games, like, why did you do this? And it's like, you kind of saw the writing on the wall. First of all, the moment 10 years ago that it was announced that they were making a League of Legends fighting game, I was like, why? What's the point of that? What makes them think that this game would ever succeed? Despite the fact that I have personal issues with Tom Cannon from our interactions back in the day, and the history I know of how this guy ran his businesses, ran his tournaments, really kind of messed up stuff there. That's not even the problem with the game. The game is that on a concept level, the game doesn't make sense, right? It'd be like, oh, we're going to make an Overwatch fighting game. Why? Why are you doing that? Just make a fighting game that's good. It doesn't have to be Overwatch. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're trying to basically sell the game just because of the characters in it rather than the game itself. And that's really what happened is they had the premise of selling a League of Legends fighting game, but they didn't have a game yet. Like, they didn't have a concept of what it wanted to do. Is it Street Fighter? Is it a team-based fighter like King of Fighters? Is it a tag-out game like Marvel? Is it going to be an actual straightforward fighting game? Or is it going to be more mash buttons auto combo game? Or is it going to be a game that doesn't even have motion inputs? And they just kept changing their ideas or in a big circle all around for 10 years. By the time the game is ready to come out, no one cares because everything else has already surpassed it. It is textbook gaming development hell. And I hate to say it, the guy in charge, his name is Tom Cannon. There's one finger to point towards one person on how this happened, okay? So, it is what it is. Sad that this happened. What I'm sad about is that all these people in the FGC who thought that this was going to be like long-term employment, they saw that this game was going to be a cash cow for people because they're like, damn, Riot Games has tons of money. Can you imagine if this game becomes huge in the fighting game community? Now we can have sponsored tournaments and we could have big events. And now, done. 10 years of work, 10 years of hype, 10 years of excitement, all a waste of everyone's time, ran right into the ground by bad leadership. Them's the breaks. Okay. Well, that's the story of 2XKO. Now, the thing is, it might not actually be canceled and done, but I can't imagine that the fighting game community is going to put any faith in this game and invest time in it when it literally could be canceled at a moment's notice. So we'll have to see what actually happens. But the truth is, I was never going to play it because of my personal issues with the cannons to begin with. So now that the game is failing, it's kind of like, well, now I'm really glad I didn't try it because that would have been a complete waste of my time because the game is going to be dead. There you go. Okay. We got a couple of shout outs to do. Ooh. From JB. Someone tipped $1.50 and says, is it satisfying to see a project developed by the Cannon brothers fail, especially after their mistreatment towards you in regards to the rollback netcode debacle on SRK? It's crazy your critics end up failing on their own. Here's the truth. I don't want anything to fail. I would much rather see it succeed, and here's why. Competition breeds innovation. The more fighting games that are out there and actually play well and do well, sales-wise, means there will be more competition in the realm of fighting games. If 2XKO did well, and it competed directly with Street Fighter 6, perhaps that would inspire the makers of Street Fighter 6 to stop being lazy and actually improve their game some. Or maybe make another fighting game, because that's the thing. Capcom used to always have 2, 3, 4 fighting games going on at once. So if you like the versus style, you could play that. If you preferred more straight up Street Fighter, you could play that. At one point, Capcom just got lazy as shit and only made one fighting game at a time, and now we only have Street Fighter 6 and nothing else to play, unless we want to go to another company's fair, which are completely different styles of games. So maybe if 2XKO did well, you know, Capcom would say, oh, we got to make another game, and they'd make another one. And I'd like that. So it's not that I don't like the canon, so I want everything they do in life to fail. No, not at all. In truth, here's what I would like: to never hear from them again. To have them just go away and disassociate from the fighting game community forever and never make another game and never run a tournament and just ride into the sunset and just fizzle away. Because ever since the moment that they started getting involved in fighting games, there was corruption and drama and fucking problems. And it still hasn't ended to this day. Here we are all this time later, and now we have the game development hell for this fucking game. Like, it's ridiculous that it continues and persists to this day, that they won't go away, and this problem still continues. Okay.